Hello everyone. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the recent controversy surrounding 343's roadmap for Halo Infinite. The reason it's controversial is because the roadmap looks alright, but it's going to take forever to get here, like an entire year, and these are very, very much needed, desperately needed things for the game. And it's going to take this long for it to reach the game. So players are sort of just fed up and they're making their own videos, and it inspired me to make my own video because I see smaller YouTubers making these videos and yet they get a lot of views. And I want to get in on that because I don't want to make a video if I'm basically just talking to myself, and I feel like there's a chance that my opinion can actually reach other people and I won't just be talking to myself. The second thing is that as a game developer, I can perhaps offer a different perspective, or at least the same perspective, but from a more educated standpoint. What I'm going to talk about specifically is not necessarily the roadmap, but I want to talk about a tweet that was made by a 343 Industries employee, John Unishek. He's a community manager. He made a tweet about why games release with more content today than they did 10 years ago. This is in response to someone saying, like, criticizing how Halo Infinite released less content and, like, let's say, like, Halo Reach did, so, less content than what Bungie games released with. And I have a couple issues with it, but I want to start off with where I agree with him on. So let me highlight his 3 points that the post made. It's number one, games are hard to make because of legalities, laws are always changing. Number two, because crossplay, they have to support crossplay. And number three, player expectations increase. Well, first of all, I want to start by saying player expectations. Expectations is not a reason why games release with less content, because that has nothing to do with releasing the same amount of content. That has to do with releasing more content than what came out before. So that scratch that one off. But the legalities and crossplay, that's absolutely true. I do believe that for AAA developers, games have gotten a little bit harder to make. And for indie developers who don't have all these legalities and they can't even support crossplay because their games most likely aren't even on console, they don't. I would say games for them have gotten easier. Tools have gotten better, free to use assets, and it's been easier to connect with people. So I would say it's gotten easy for indie devs and a little bit harder for AAA developers. But there is so many. And the issue is although this statement is true, he's not just offering it as an explanation, like, oh yeah, games are a little bit hard to make today. No, he's offering it as an excuse because it's in response to someone, criticizing how Halo Infinite launched and how it currently is. So therefore, he's using this as justification to say, well, this is just why Halo Infinite released this way, when that's not entirely true. It's like, even if you're not entirely absolving 343 of all blame, you're just partially doing it. Like, oh yeah, it's partially our fault, but it's partially this. That is still very, very wrong and bad. There needs to be some accountability, and I'm going to get into why right now. So there's a lot of reasons, but the first reason is that, yes, it's a little harder, but you also had more time to make this game than what Bungie had to make Halo Reach. You also had a bigger budget as well. So you had more money and more time. And yes, there were some challenges and difficulties, but with that in mind, there's really no reason you couldn't give at least the same amount of content that Reach launched with. The second reason is that I want to give some examples of newer games that came out recently in this new climate that don't have these issues. And I'm going to start with other Microsoft-owned IPs. The Coalition, they make Gears of War. The Gears of War released with campaign, multiplayer, horde mode, a lot of maps, a lot of cosmetics, non-predatory systems. It came out with all this stuff that 343 or John at 343 is saying that is a big issue with the industry. And then there are other non-Microsoft IP games that are some of the most ambitious and innovative games. So despite the fact that games are hard to make these days, still some of the most ambitious and biggest games have came out in recent years. Elden Ring is a very good game, very pretty ambitious. It released, and it doesn't have these issues. And when I say it doesn't have these issues, like it does have these issues internally, but they overcome them and they don't dump those issues onto the players. So basically, what this all means is that yes, it is harder, but it is not an excuse to make a poor quality product or something extremely barren, especially to this extent. It's not just slightly barren. They didn't miss the mark by a centimeter. They missed it by a couple miles. So I know that John made this excuse because he wanted, as a community manager, part of being a community manager is creating good PR, and he wanted people to sympathize with 343 and to take some blame away from them so that people would be more sympathetic and say, oh, well, I guess it's not entirely their fault. They're right. But the issue is if you're using logic and you're thinking of these things that I'm thinking of, then it does the opposite of that. It's this is only telling of 343's inability to overcome adversity, not telling of how difficult the industry has become. In order for it to have that effect, every game releasing these days would have to have the same issues that Halo Infinite has, but it's just not true. There's so many games releasing that don't have these issues. There's also a lot that do, sure, but there's a lot that do not. So when you make this as an excuse, you're basically just saying like, oh, this was inevitable. It's impossible. It was inevitable that the game would release like this. There's absolutely nothing we could have done about it. It's just how things are. That's just not true. It didn't have to be this way. So I'm about to say something, and I need to put a disclaimer before I say it, because there are a lot of people that will leave constructive feedback, but they'll be unnecessarily harsh and rude, or they'll just leave feedback, but it's not constructive whatsoever, and it's just rude. And I'm just going to say I don't like drama. I don't like toxicity. I disavow it. And I just hate it. It's an awful thing that I don't like to deal with. So, but sometimes the truth and just isn't, there's no nice way to put it. It's not supposed to be easy or pleasant. And what I'm about to say may come off as rude, but it's just the truth. And I'm sorry for that, but the truth is that there just is no excuse you can make. You just need to do better. These videos succeeded because they're simply more talented than 343 Industries is. They have more talent there. And that's that. Like you just need to do better. You're just not as good as these other studios are. And that's the reason you're not doing as well, because they face the same hurdles you face, and they release a significantly better, more polished game with more content. So that's the real reason why your game launched like this. That's the reason it's still like this, not because the industry's climate. And I do not mean that in a patronizing way, as in like 343 has absolutely no talent there, or they absolutely suck. No. I'm not saying that they suck, but their body of work doesn't necessarily indicate that there is a lot of talent there, talent on the level of a AAA game, right? Like Halo Infinite's multiplayer feels like a double A game, which is still a lot better than an indie game, right? But it feels more like a double A game to me. So, especially at launch. So that's just the truth of the situation, and I hope that no one thinks that I'm being toxic about it. I mean this with all due respect, and I just want things to get better. I want them to improve themselves. So I say it out of complete love and complete understanding as a game developer of all the shit that we have to go through. But these studios, Microsoft-owned studios, I might add, and other studios that may have, less time, less budget, but they're also still coming out in recent years that outdo Infinite in so many different ways. They're just proof that this is not a valid excuse for failure. Like Halo Infinite wasn't just barren a little bit, as I said. It was barren by quite a lot. But anyways, that's my video I wanted to make. That's my opinion on the matter. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys like this video, I'm willing to make other Halo videos if you guys want. Just let me know in the comments. I ask that you all be civil. Before the video closes, I just want to say one more thing, and that is that although I'm telling 343 to just do better, I cannot tell them what they have to do better. I'm not there. I don't work at 343. Like, I cannot tell you guys what exactly you need to do better. And that's the issue, is that if I can't tell you what your flaws are or what your problems is or why you're failing, then I can't really help you that well. So that's why you have to just acknowledge that you're not doing well enough and that you do need to do better and that it's your fault, so that you can start thinking about why you're not doing as well, what needs to be fixed, and thinking of solutions for that, because I can't do that for you. So you need to do it yourselves. So please try to do that if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Again, peace out.